So we have Representative Dr. Austin Baeth from House District 36. And Austin is an internal medicine physician who is representative of Des Moines in the Iowa House since 2023. He has authored bipartisan legislation to combat Iowa's cancer crisis and has been a vocal advocate for improving Iowa's water quality. Dr. Baeth and his wife Stephanie have two children, ages 3 and 5. And when we were getting ready to come on, we got to visit with the kids a little bit before they went to bed. They were all in their jammies, and it was time for them to be in bed. So, welcome, and Austin. I met you at the Earth Summit when you were at the Earth Summit last November that it takes place at Drake, and
Right.
I've been impressed in watching what you've been trying to do for the Iowans, and take it away.
Thank you, Denise. Hello, everybody. Great to see all of you. Thanks so much for having me. I really appreciate it. I actually spent the day at the Capitol while waiting for Republicans to get out of caucus. I compiled a little bit of a PowerPoint presentation. What I thought I'd do is kind of go through what we currently know about Iowa's cancer crisis and thoughts around some of the potential causes of it. And then I'm going to talk about with a particular focus about water quality. And in the tail end, maybe talking about, I was asked to also talk about Spinachgate. And if you haven't maybe seen what started what is being called Spinachgate, I'll share the video with that. Um, I'm going to kind of just quickly go through these slides and then feel free to speak up if you need any clarification. But what's really important to me, so I'm right here in the center of Des Moines, smack dab in the middle of Des Moines. I represent downtown Des Moines. And what I really want to do is hear from all of you. You guys are from all across the state, especially rural Iowa. I need to be able to have more eyes and ears on the ground so I understand how folks are talking and thinking about water quality in your neck of the woods. So I'd love to leave plenty of time to hear from you and get your feedback and tell me your experiences of your thoughts and those of your neighbors. That would be really valuable to me so I can continue to hone our message as Democrats statewide as we try to win in a landslide this November. So I am not savvy with Zoom. I'm going to try to share my screen. Is this working so far?
It is.
All
And
right.
Austin, just before you start, I'd like to have people put their questions in the chat, and Tatum will be watching for them, and we'll be able to do that. So we can have
Sounds
the
good.
presentation, and then we can have question and answer. How about that?
Okay. Sounds good. All right. All right. So cancer in Iowa. It wasn't until 2023, that was my first year in the legislature, when the Iowa Cancer Registry detected a signal that Iowa now all of a sudden is in the midst of a cancer problem. And when Iowa Cancer Registry does its collection of data, it has to look back several years. So everything that's detected by the Iowa Cancer Registry lags a few years. So, for example, current data here in 2026 is from cases from 2022. So back in 2023, we detected a signal where all of a sudden we have a climbing cancer rate that is the fastest rising cancer rate in the nation. And if we look back at this plot of the data, this red line are cancer cases in Iowa on a per capita basis, and the blue line shows cancer cases per capita of the United States average. And you'll see that we've been kind of riding a little bit higher than national average, even in the early 2000s. But something happened, an inflection point happened sometime around 2013, 2014, when all of a sudden the Iowa's cancer rate starts climbing, whereas the rest of the country continues to see a falling cancer rate. And quite unfortunately, this was not just a blip, because the last 3 years in a row, we have continued to have a climbing cancer rate while the rest of the country's cancer rate continues to go down. Um, I want to say that there's a lot that we don't know. And studying what we call cancer epidemiology, the causes of cancer, is very difficult because cancer just doesn't get you overnight. It's usually from exposures to things that might happen over years or even decades. And so we really have to look back in time to try to figure out what the causes of cancer are that we are seeing here today. And that's really hard because people move, people have a hard time remembering, did I used to drink regular soda or diet soda back in the early 2000s? It's really hard to get a lot of data to figure out back in time what might have led to our increase in cancer rate. So I'm just kind of lay of the land there. I also want to say that we will probably not find one singular smoking gun to Iowa's cancer rate. Um, um, Normally in cases like this, it's going to be a host of a few things, but it's really important that we try to at least find all of them so we can work on mitigating all of them. So this is another slide that compares Iowa's cancer rate to the national average. And if you see that sort of bluish purple box, that's our excess cancer rate, meaning those are the excess number of cases that we have here in Iowa compared to if we were to live in an average cancer state. And that's just kind of a way to show it visually, where now currently here in Iowa, about 12% of our cancer cases are excess, meaning 12% of all cancer in Iowa is probably preventable in some sort of way once we find out what is causing it. These are the leading types of cancer here in Iowa. So this is the top, how many are in this? Top 10 most common cancers in Iowa. And you will see so the order in which they're listed, breast cancer, then prostate, then lung, those are the number 1, 2, 3, and 4, and so on of most prevalent cancers in Iowa. If you then go to that column that says Iowa's rank out of 50, you see that for all of these, we're in the top 13 in the country. And in some cases, we're first in the country, like with non-Hodgkin's lymphoma and leukemia. So it's not just one cancer that's driving this. It's a lot of different cancers that are all together contributing to our excess cancer rate. And it is estimated that in total, we have about 2,582 Iowans that represent those excess cases. So more than 2,500 Iowans per year are being diagnosed with cancer that would not otherwise be expected because of our increased rate compared to national average. And so this list shows 331 more prostate cancer cases and so forth. When you go to Iowa Cancer Registry each year and you get the cancer report, you can find a color-coded map by county to see the cancer rates on a per capita basis. So in this map, this is our latest report that was released last month. The dark blue is the highest cancer rates per capita. And then that sort of kind of light teal is the second highest, and then that green is a little bit lower. You will see here that this is largely a rural issue. You look at Polk County, the most populous county in Iowa, right there in the middle, even though it has 2,900 absolute cases on a per capita basis, it's actually pretty low, and it's actually at or lower than the national average in cancer. Whereas a place, for example, Palo Alto, which has consistently had one of the highest cancer rates in the country, even though it only has 75 cases, you divide that by the smaller number of residents, that's actually pretty high per capita cancer rate. So cancer in Iowa, unfortunately, is largely a rural issue. And already that kind of speaks against some people who kind of wondered at first, are we showing a higher cancer rate because we screen more, because people have more access to care, and we're just finding more cancers because people are getting more mammograms? Well, the fact that cancer is largely a rural issue in Iowa speaks against that because statistically, folks in rural Iowa have worse access to cancer screening and other medical care, as some of you have experienced. So that already kind of raises concern. This is not just some sort of statistical aberration. This is something that perhaps is in our environment. We don't know, but I'm going to kind of cover what we know and what we don't know. It's going to be mostly what we don't know. One side note here, I want to talk about young cancer cases. And my colleagues in the hospital, we're noticing this left and right, unfortunately. We're seeing a lot of young Iowans in our hospital with metastatic terminal cancer. There was even an article, I can't remember if it's the New York Times or the Washington Post, a few months ago that talked about how Iowa is leading the nation in young cancer cases. This is really concerning. Cancer is going up among young people nationally, especially colon cancer, but it's even worse for Iowans. I will also note pediatric cancer. So cancer cases for kids 18 and under are actually at about the national average. A lot of folks are asking us about that, and quite fortunately, so far, we're not seeing above average levels in pediatric cases, and we hope it stays that way. We'd much rather be, on the lowest end possible. So why is Iowa's cancer rate so high? Well, we need to study, I kind of grouped these into three different things we need to think about. In the left column, the traditional risk factors. Those are the things most cancer epidemiologists are already going to try to figure out what might be underpinning this, because we also have survey data to figure it out. So traditional risk factors are smoking, obesity, alcohol, diet, sedentary lifestyle. I'm going to go to the far right, the statistical confounders, which I talked about a little bit. If you have really good access to care, and there's a trend of, rich New Yorkers who get full body MRIs to screen for various diseases. If you're doing tons of cancer screenings all the time, you're just going to find more cancers statistically. And so our researchers do have to take into account what's insurance coverage like, what's the cancer screening rate like, education level, race and ethnicity. Education level, for example, there was a story about how the breast cancer rate in Urbandale, Iowa, which is a suburb of Des Moines, is super high. And there was this worry that there's something going on in Urbandale causing breast cancer. Well, it happens that the Urbandale, Iowa has one of the highest concentrations of bachelor's degrees. And statistically, higher education level is correlated with higher breast cancer cases because that segment of population gets their mammograms more frequently. In the middle is the non-traditional risk factors. And this is the kind of the X factor. This is what is it that we aren't seeing that isn't the commonly measured things that we might need to point to as some underpinning causes of Iowa's excess cancer rates. We know Iowa has a lot of radon, and we know that lung cancer is a significant portion of our excess cases. We know we have bad water pollution. We know we have air pollution. And we also know that, especially lately, there has been a push to undo vaccine recommendations and requirements in the state of Iowa, including HPV and hepatitis B vaccines. And these vaccines help prevent cancer. Currently, nationally, we're about average for HPV and hepatitis B vaccination. So maybe 3 weeks ago or so, the Iowa Environmental Council and the Harkin Institute came out with a report that kind of compiled what we know about various environmental risk factors here in Iowa and how it might be linked to Iowa's cancer crisis. We're going to go right into water nitrate. No secret to folks, I think, on this call that Iowa has a water pollution problem. This is a map of Iowa's impaired waterways. It's like most of our waterways, quite unfortunately. And we currently have a water quality sensor network working in real time thanks to a donation from the Walton Family Foundation that runs out in July, because Iowa Republicans defunded our water quality sensors in 2023. But this is an example. You can Google the Iowa Water Quality Information System site and find out real-time nitrate level measurements in our various waterways. This was an example I pulled in January on the North Raccoon River in Jefferson, where the nitrate was running at that time 19. The EPA threshold for nitrate is 10 or less. There's debate of whether it should be much lower than that to help protect us from disease. But you can see with the nitrate level of almost twice the EPA limit, you're going to have a lot of nitrate removal capacity to be able to have the North Raccoon be your drinking water source. Looking at the Raccoon River when measured here in Des Moines and the Des Moines River, the nitrate levels nationally are 96th and 95th percentile, respectively. So when you compare our main rivers nationally, we are way up there in nitrate. When you look at our well water, so these are private wells from year 2000 to 2024. You see all the purple dots? Those are wells that are found to have nitrates greater than 10. That's a lot of wells. It's estimated about 10% of Iowans get their water from private wells. A very small percentage of private wells are tested, even on every decade basis. Private well testing is free to people who request it from their county sanitarian. So I'm going to make this plug later, but I'm going to say it again, say it right now. If you're on private well water, call your county sanitarian if you haven't had it tested in the last year, and please get that tested. So when I showed you, it's no surprise then when you look at the drinking water nitrate levels of people across the country, that Iowans drink much higher water nitrates out of their faucet than most folks the rest of the country. And when you look at the historical nitrate concentrations of Iowa's rivers, remember I said we have to look temporally. We have to look chronologically of what was happening back in maybe the 80s, 90s, early 2000s to cause our sudden leap in cancer in 2013, 2014. Well, we see that we didn't always have a bunch of nitrate in our rivers. In mid 1900s, our nitrate levels were around 1 or 2, and now they are 5, 6 times that. Water nitrate's bad for you. There are a lot of studies that will show this. I'm only giving you a few examples here, and you'll see from this column on the right, which is a meta-analysis of various studies studying nitrate consumption, that the nitrate cutoff is much low, where they start to see an increase in cancer levels, is much lower than the EPA standard of 10 milligrams per liter. We're seeing cancer associated with nitrate levels as low as 3. And there's a study that just came out from the EWG, the Environmental Working Group, and I only heard about it from a CNN reporter. She interviewed me. She told me, I haven't read it yet. I think it's 1 in 5 Americans drink nitrate level greater than 3. And I bet you most Iowans are in that group. So that's nitrates. And I'm going to come back to that in a little bit. Water, but this is something that we have concern for. So as that diagram on the right shows you, water nitrates been linked to cancers of the colon, ovary, thyroid, kidney, bladder. There's also data linking it to stomach cancer, pancreatic cancer. So it's not good stuff. What I think is important to say at this point is I'm not saying that it's water nitrate that's causing our cancer problem or even contributing to it. It may or may not be. I don't know. But at the very least, nitrate in our water is probably a surrogate marker for all the other junk that's in our water. Studies show that, at least for nitrate, that 80% of the nitrate in our rivers comes from agricultural activity. 80%. You're going to hear some folks parroting Farm Bureau's message that no, it's the goose poop, or it's city slickers and their golf course fertilizers. It's true that city dwellers and their lawn fertilizers are accounted for and contribute approximately 0.4%, so less than 1% of nitrates in the water. It's true that is part of the problem. But the data show that approximately 80% of the nitrate in our water is caused from agricultural activity. About 40% is from artificial fertilizers, manufactured fertilizers. 20% is from manure, and the final 20% is the nitrogen fixation from soybeans. So what I wanted to say is that whether it's nitrate or not, we also know that nitrate, by and large, is coming from agricultural activity, and we know there are other chemicals in addition to nitrogen that is being applied to our fields. And so if we have high nitrate in our water, we may very well have other chemicals in our water, and we are measuring that all the time here in Des Moines. So I'm going to talk about other things in our water, and won't go so much into air pollutants, but at least water pollutants. There's a study that came out last year looking at various pesticides and their risk with cancer. And this was the estimate from this study of pesticide-associated cancers in the United States on the county level. And they did that by tracing how many pounds of these various pesticides were purchased in each county, and then linking that to the cancer rates of the various cancers that are associated with those pesticides. You see that Iowa is dark blue. Dark blue means not good. That study I talked about from the Iowa Environmental Council also is mapping our changes in the use of three of our three most commonly used pesticides here. This is acetochlor, which we are the #1 user in America, is linked to numerous cancers, and you'll see that our use of acetochlor went up greatly over a 25-year period. That is similar to atrazine, which is strongly linked to cancer. It's banned in the EU because of its link to cancer. And over a 25-year period, I mean, we're still using it a great deal and are still the nation's leader in atrazine use. And you can detect all these in our water too. That's at minute levels, but you can detect them. And here's glyphosate, which has really ballooned over the last 25 years as this was measured. Iowa is the #1 user of glyphosate in America. It has its strongest link to non-Hodgkin lymphoma, and Iowa is #1 in the nation in non-Hodgkin lymphoma. So this is made by Bayer. This is Roundup. So most people are asking, well, dude, Iowa's an agricultural state. What the hell do you think you're going to do about it? Is it politically feasible to implement state water quality initiatives? Well, there's a new poll that came out recently, and this, I will say, it was commissioned by Food and Water Watch, but in which they've been great proponents for helping to ensure that we have clean water. But they used a very well-respected pollster, Global Strategy Group. And I'm going to go through some of the results. But the results kind of suggest that politicians need to grow a freaking spine when they talk about water quality. They surveyed 600 Iowa voters across the political spectrum, and they asked them, what are the things that you are most concerned about as you think about this upcoming election here in November? And you know their #1 most important concern? Cancer. more than the cost of living, like the rest of Democrats across America are sticking to affordability. Cancer in Iowa beats out cost of living 72% to 61%. Now, this was multiple choice, so you're not going to see all these numbers add up to 100%. But comparing to what at least Iowa Republicans are running on this year, which is crime and safety, water quality more than doubled in importance to Iowans than crime and safety. 58% of Iowans say that water quality and pollution are a top issue, one of the things that they're most worried about going to the ballot box. What's really important here is this carried true across the political spectrum. When they asked voters, are you more likely to support an official who prioritizes clean water and cuts industrial ag pollution, even 72% of Republicans said yes. 82% of all voters. And when they looked at the surveys of those folks in U.S. House District 1 and District 3, so trying to take out Miller Meeks and Zach Nunn, 85% of Iowans in both of those districts say, yeah, I'm going to support the candidate who prioritizes clean water, even if it means more regulations on big ag to try to cut down pollutants. I think this is very informative. Now, and we don't often see polls conducted in this way. It'd be great to have more confirmatory polling. But for me, this tells me what my gut has been telling me after talking with so many Iowans, that yes, this is really important to folks. And it doesn't matter what your party affiliation is. When I'm doing social media videos on this, I have plenty of Republicans who comment on it. I have plenty of people who are in the Maha crowd. This is really concerning to a lot of Iowans. Well, thankfully, we've gotten some colleagues in the Iowa House and the Iowa Senate who are Democrats to lean into this a bit. And I was part of a group in the Iowa House who offered what we call the Iowa Healthy Water Act. And I will say, to pause, there are a lot of ways that we can help clean up our water here in Iowa. Some are more carrot, some are more stick when it comes to trying to get the management practices that we need. The Iowa Healthy Water Act is all carrot, meaning we are offering to give folks money, financial incentives to do this, not punishing anybody, not doing any restrictions, not doing any banning, as an effort to see if Republicans, if Big Ag, if everybody would join us on a starting 1 foot forward to do something about this. And it was crickets. This plan was not even given a subcommittee in the Iowa House. So I want to say that my job is to try to keep Iowa politicians talking about this and to keep leaning and getting them to lean into this. But I know very good and well a Democratic doctor from Des Moines is not going to be the one that's going to convince farmers to change some practices to reduce some runoff. So I do think it's really important that we utilize a big tent here, a group effort in ordering to try to get some change. And I will say also, I said I was trying to convince some Democrats. I'm also talking with a lot of Republicans in the state capitol. Republicans who will say, they say, hey, Baeth, I know you're talking about cancer a lot. And then they'll stop and they'll kind of look around, make sure nobody else is listening. And they'll say to me, it's in our water, isn't it? I even had a Republican who sits right in front of me. And she said, hey, which reverse osmosis filter do you recommend? So they know this is a problem. The thing is they need to feel safe politically to do something about it. And that's where we need everybody to come in to help give some folks a political backbone to help enact the state interventions that are needed. I wanted to give a shout out to one group. I want to first say that Iowa Farmers Union does a great job educating folks on best management practices. I want to give a shout out to some newcomers to this These are three guys called the Loeb Rangers. They farm in the Des Moines Loeb of Iowa. And two of them are Republicans, one of them's an independent. And they just launched about a month ago all sorts of videos talking about, trying to show how their generation is choosing to farm. They talk a lot about some of the boomers in their industry who are looking down on them for these practices. And these are guys who I've been trying to help promote, because if folks are going to change practices, it needs to be from trusted peers. And so I just kind of encourage you, if you're interested, look up the Loeb Rangers. They are on Facebook, Instagram. I'm not sure if they're on TikTok. They might be there as well. I usually share their material, and I learn a lot from it. They've been a great partner in this. That second upper left, second from the left video is where they criticize the Democrats' water plan because it wasn't strict enough, stringent enough, hard hitting enough. And I'm like, good for you guys. And the week earlier, they criticized Republicans who were denying that water quality is an issue. So they're doing a great job hewing to a centrist, nonpartisan approach to this, because it shouldn't be. It shouldn't be partisan in any way. Everybody deserves clean water. I was asked to talk about spinach. So I forgive me. I'm going to go and play this video just like a minute and a half or maybe 2 minutes, because I will say that a new tact I'm trying to take here to try to bring more people into the fold is through political satire, because folks get so depressed paying attention to politics. Eventually, they tune out politics, and so. We had a state senator, Ken Rosenboom, who I was alerted from Senate Democrats. He was just talking shit about me on the Senate floor, saying that Baeth was spreading all these lies, that water nitrate might be causing cancer. It's all a myth. And he said, well, look up the nitrate level in spinach. So I decided, for the first time in my political career, I'm going to troll him. I'm going to troll him online. And so this was I don't normally stoop low, but it was kind of fun.
Iowans love spinach.
Can you hear this okay?
For the last 2 or 3 years, I've actually been very vocal about the concern that Iowa's water pollution, especially our high water nitrate levels, may be contributing to Iowa's cancer crisis. But all that time that I was pouring through the scientific literature, the real answer turned out to be literally right under my nose. And I have to admit that I didn't realize it until I listened to my Republican colleague in the Senate, who first declared that my assertion that water nitrate is causing cancer
is simply a myth. It's not true. And this is always rich to me. If you're concerned about nitrates, I suggest you check out the nitrate levels in spinach and lettuce and other leafy greens. You will find they are very high in nitrates. Spinach and lettuce, spinach and lettuce, spinach and lettuce.
And then it suddenly all made sense. Iowans love spinach. So I've made it my mission now, some call it my crusade, to finally end Iowans' addiction to this green leafy killer. Bob, don't eat that shit. How about some Cheetos? Come on.
Okay.
I mean, I thought cigarettes were bad, cocaine, meth, but Iowans really love spinach. Allison, you told me you quit. Hand me the fork. Come on. But here in the state capitol, we really have to talk about the elephant in the room. The real evil lurking behind Iowans' addiction to leafy greens is the big spinach lobby. They've got 3 or 4 full-time lobbyists who are just lurking outside the House and Senate chambers. And with the number of colleagues of mine who have accepted campaign contributions from Big Spinach, it's no wonder we're spending all of our time talking about spinach subsidies and new salad standards. Hell, it even turns out that my childhood hero has been indoctrinating our kids for all these years. I got to say that at least I'm on the right track now. I am no longer distracted by science or common sense like I was when I was ranting about Iowa's horrible water quality, water pollution, you were framed.
So,
Iowans love.
we can stop that now. That it was just fun. I was just waiting around for Republicans to try to agree on a budget, and so they say that an idle mind is the devil's playground. So I'm just going to make videos until they give me something to do in that Capitol. I want to tell you that spinach is totally safe. It is true. I'm going to put on my doctor hat here real quick and give a quick med school lesson that you can eat spinach. It's true that vegetables have higher nitrate levels, but the whole difference is the context in which nitrate is consumed. So I have a diagram here. On the left, you're going to see the nitrate found in vegetables. The thing about nitrate found in vegetables, vegetables also have a bunch of antioxidants, vitamin C, vitamin E, polyphenols. And that helps convert nitrate to nitric oxide, which is actually good for your body. It can help dilate blood vessels, can be good for your cardiovascular health. It is not harmful to you. You can eat spinach, you can eat leafy greens, not a big deal. I'm going to have to tell Ken Rosenboom he can go back to the salad bar. He doesn't have to fear that. Now, on the other hand, nitrate in water, nitrate in cured meats, does not have antioxidants to go with it. And so in the body, when you don't have antioxidants to convert nitrates, it's converted to nitrite, which is later converted to nitrosamine, and that's toxic to our DNA. That can damage our DNA, and when DNA gets damaged in our cells, that can make them mutate and turn to cancer. So that's the difference. That's why Ken Rosenboom was a little bit misguided in scapegoating spinach and trying to, say, oh, that water nitrate isn't a thing because look at spinach. But I'm going to try to make him the face of Republicans and their attitude towards water quality until I hear some others saying differently. So I'm going to offer a few final thoughts quickly because I would love to hear from all of you. So I'm going to talk about two things. One is the political aspect of this. So I'm going to go from politician, then I'm going to go to the doctor. So from politician side, I really, truly believe, and I want to hear from all of you, that cancer and water quality are Iowa's kitchen table issues that go right along with affordability. There is no other state in America where this would work but here. But talking to folks, I'm hearing left and right here in my neck of the woods that cancer and water quality are so crucial to them. And so I'm trying to get my Democratic colleagues to lean into this and not be afraid to talk about water quality, and certainly don't be afraid to talk about cancer. And I'm going to use the Republicans like Rosenboom who say that our water is just fine and you're just making this all up. And I think that Iowans smell BS to anybody who says our water is just fine. So I think that's a losing argument. And so I am going to use those sound bites from Republicans to say that because I want that to look like that is the Republican stance. And I haven't heard otherwise yet from Republican politicians, at least from our capital. Now, Zach Land, a Republican running for governor, that's interesting. He is talking about water quality. That's great. I don't know about some of his other stuff he's talking about, but he's the only prominent Republican lawmaker I've heard, or politician that I've heard from, who's talking about water quality. What's really important is the way we frame talking about water quality. And I want to always be clear, and I say this a lot, this is about being a war on cancer, not a war on farmers. And I want to also say there are a lot of farmers who do great work in conservation practices. We're not trying to create enemies out of anyone here. The enemy is cancer. And, and for example, that's why I highlight the Loeb Rangers, and there's so many others farmers who do great conservation practices. And also important, if you're going to find any sort of boogeyman, it would be the politicians, the special interest groups, and corporations that have designed a system in which farmers are struggling to get by and doing everything they can just to get by. And right now, for a lot of folks, that means continuing the farming practices that have gone on for decades. So what I try to talk about is that we should be partnering with farmers to create a system that works for everyone, that works for farmers and works for the rest of Iowans who live off the land and the water, the air. I'm going to go into the doctor side now, because I have a lot of folks asking, okay, you freaking scared me out now, scared me about cancer. What can I do to protect myself and my family? Okay, tell me. So first, make sure you have a primary care physician, because they're the ones that can make sure that you've received all your age-appropriate cancer screenings. So the things that we know how to screen for. So getting a mammogram, getting a colonoscopy. I'll even go through the screening ages and intervals for you. So for women age 40 and less family history, you should start getting a mammogram. Adults age 45 need to start getting colonoscopies. Smokers who have smoked 15 years, averaging a pack a day, need to get a lung CT, chest CT annually. Men should talk to their doctor about getting a PSA. Pap smears for women are important to help screen for cervical cancer. Going to the dentist to help screen for oropharyngeal cancer or mouth, tongue cancers. Those are all important things. Test your home for radon. There are only 2 states in America in which every single county is the highest risk for radon, and that's Iowa and North Dakota. 70% of Iowa homes have an elevated radon level. 70%, yet only 1 in 10 homes have tested in the last decade. So I recommended here Alpha Energy Labs to get started for, I think it's $18. You go to aelabs.com, they'll send you a radon test in the mail as at least a quick spot check. But I know ignorance is bliss. I'm dealing with that with my own dad who found an elevated radon level in his house. But I highly recommend getting your radon tested if you have it. You don't need to be living in the basement, by the way. Even up to the 2nd level, people can have elevated radon levels. So I recommend getting tested. Water testing. I discussed private wells. Your county sanitarian is receiving state funding. It's called the Grants to Counties program. And it's never fully used. They always got a ton of money left every year. So call your county sanitarian if you're on a private well, have them come test it. Regulations recommend you have your well tested annually. It can change over time too. So I would maybe recommend getting it done coming up here in the late spring, early summer would be a good time to test. If you're on municipal water, guidelines are that you can request the recent nitrate level at any time. They only have to publish annually their water quality report, but we know that nitrate levels can oscillate over time. It's highest typically in the spring and summer, though here in Des Moines, we've had our nitrate removal system on for 90% of the days so far this year, running through the winter, which is unprecedented to have run this long, all the way here into April. And then I'm not going to give a formal recommendation of when is a time to have a water filter because we don't have the full knowledge yet. 1, we don't know for sure that nitrates are contributing to our cancer crisis. And 2, we don't exactly know at what level your risk starts to go up. I have said here that studies have some suggestion that cancer might be linked at levels of nitrate of 3 to 5 is maybe when we start to see signals. So if you feel compelled to, the reverse osmosis water filters are the only ones that remove nitrate. Those Brita filters and the filters that are found in your refrigerator do not remove nitrate. It needs to be reverse osmosis filter. You do not need a whole house reverse osmosis filter. You can't absorb nitrate through your skin. It's only by ingesting it. So you can bathe in water that has nitrate in it. It's not going to hurt you. It's only ingesting it. So you can just get the one that's attached to your sink, and that'd be just fine. And a lot of folks ask me which reverse osmosis filter I recommend. I have seen good reports from this company called Water Drop tankless filters. So waterdropfilter.com. I'm not paid for them. I do not get any commissions if any of you order a water drop water filter. But that's one that I've seen really good reports of quality and dependability for. I'm going to stop talking, and I would love to hear from all of you. Thoughts, questions, concerns, ideas. Teach me.
So Austin, thank you so very much. So I know I'll be looking at that recording because it's just so much. There's so much information, and I
Sorry, it might have
appreciate.
been data overload. I apologize.
No, I can't see how you could do it after a day of being at the legislature. I think my
People
brain would
don't
be
think that hard
mush.
in that building. Don't worry. My mind is well rested.
Okay. Well,
Are
and
you
we
done?
have a
There we go. Shall we
from
stop the
Susan.
sharing, the screen sharing? Is that okay? Okay.
Yes. Sorry. Yeah.
And there's a question from Susan, and then Tatum is going to go through the questions that have shown up in the chat. So go ahead, Susan. Susan, can you?
Yes, can you hear me?
There you go.
Yeah, I can hear you,
Yes,
Susan.
yes.
Hi.
A comment first and then a question. I'm an RN born and educated in Iowa, practiced full-time for 43 years, and the number of people dying in Iowa has made me just furious. And whenever I see Kim and her minions blocking all of the sensible things to stop it, I get more incensed. And that huge number of 26,000 people projected to die in Iowa this year of cancer. It seems ludicrous. It seems a big number, and it is. However, when it takes your best friend since childhood, it becomes a whole new battle. And damn it, I am going to see that things change because this is preventable. And we need to have people who will see that it's preventable. I'm thrilled that Reynolds is out of the office.
Thank
I
you,
move back.
Susan. Okay.
Amen, Susan. We're fighting for you. We're fighting for your friend. And quite unfortunately, so many Iowans have been hurt by cancer, either personally or by somebody they love. And I agree with you. This is far too common. I think that we're going to see lawmakers having to answer some hard questions of why they've shown to just kind of ignore it.
I'm going to call on Tatum to go over the questions that have been in the chat.
Perfect. Yeah, yet again, if you do have a question, go ahead and put it in the chat. We'll try to we'll try to cover it in the next few minutes. But Austin, I think you covered a lot of questions that people asked, especially there were questions about well water, there were questions about exposure time, things like that. One question that I think is maybe remaining that someone had asked is what lobby pressure is like right now at the Capitol from what groups are against trying to do more to prevent cancer in Iowa. Is there anyone that's actually saying they are, or what does that look like?
Here's the thing. Right now, the lobby pressure is behind closed doors. So because none of our water quality bills was even granted a subcommittee, there's no reason for any lobby group to even register as opposed or for it, because they were already able to kill it before it even saw the light of day. Farm Bureau has 2 full-time lobbyists that are outside the House and Senate chambers full-time. And when I personally approached one of the Farm Bureau lobbyists, who's a nice guy, lives in my district, and I said, I'd love to talk with you about what might be a starter for pursuing better water quality in Iowa. And you know what he said? He said, I wonder if we can get more money for you guys to remove nitrate there in Des Moines. So it wasn't about, doing anything to reduce pollution upstream. It was maybe we get you more resources to clean the water before it hits your tap. That was their starting recommendation, and that's all I've heard ever. I haven't heard anything else.
Wow.
So I guess I would say until we actually should Republicans continue to maintain control of the House and Senate, it's gonna require at least a decent number of them to at least put some bill up for offering, and that's when we're going to see the lobby come out. But for now, they've got a shadow campaign that's killing everything.
Yeah, I think that lends well to another question that someone had asked. They mentioned that in their hometown, or in the town that they live in, presumably Fort Dodge has put in for a citywide reverse osmosis system. Do you have any thoughts on that? If that should be interpreted as a good thing, or if that's a bad? I mean, I think we can assume that better water quality is good, but perhaps if you have any thoughts on that to share.
Yeah, I wasn't familiar. I guess I would just ask for clarification of what is their end product nitrate level. So it's the lower you want to bring down nitrate, the more expensive it is. And so, for example, here in Des Moines Waterworks has the world's largest nitrate removal system, and it costs $16,000 a day to run just to get the nitrate down to 10 to meet federal standards of water quality. And again, we said that nitrates as low as 3 have some concern for being linked to cancer. And so probably the first question I'd be asking that water utility is, what is that end product nitrate level that's reaching your tap? And you don't need to measure it out of your tap. You just contact the utility and they tell you what their water is as it's sending it out through the treated system. I will say also, just to remember, water, it's the consumers of water, it's the citizens who are paying for that. We're all paying for it, being taxed to take nitrate out of our drinking water rather than having the onus be on big ag corporations who are obstructing efforts to prevent the pollution in the first place.
Right. So there's a couple hands raised, and it's 8:25, and we usually do an hour, but we can go a little bit longer if necessary, because this is so critical. So I'd like to call on Carrie with the question, and we'll try to be brief with this, Carrie.
All right. Thank you. My husband had prostate cancer, and in August he'll be 2 years cancer free, God willing. And we lived out in the country. We had well water, and we had hog confinements, and that always stunk all the time. We live in a town now, and also was really getting to be frustrating is the health care, because he had a surgery in Mason City, and at the time he had the surgery, they had like 5 urologists. Now they're down to 1. So he has to go all over the countryside to see his doctor. And, I blame the Republicans for that too. But it's just like, you get cancer because of the well water or whatever, and then you can't have the health care you want because all the doctors are being let go because of the big beautiful bill. I don't know. I'm just frustrated. I don't know what. I mean, I'm glad we live in town. We drink bottled water. I know it's not good for the environment, but at least. But I don't know. I just wanted to bring that up because it hits home for us.
Thank you,
he's
Carrie.
lucky. He's cancer free.
Good.
But still.
You're right. I mean, we're in a perfect storm here, right? Where, we've got more Iowans than what would be expected coming down with cancer and fewer doctors to help treat them. So you're right. It's a perfect storm, and I'm glad your husband's doing better. We're gonna be fighting for him. Thanks, Carrie.
Mike, you want to
thank you.
ask questions? Yes.
Yeah, thanks, Austin. And I appreciate what you're doing. I've been on the board of the Iowa Farmers Union since '08. I've been fighting CAFOs professionally since '05. I currently am the development director for the Jefferson County Farmers and Neighbors. And I sit on the State Central Committee. of the Iowa Democratic Party. And I wish you could talk over the years, the Democratic Party basically has been almost as bad as the Republican Party on these issues. And unfortunately, because they eat out of the same money trough, and they have been for years. And Tom Vilsack, Patty Judge, and others, and I hate to name names, but there are people that we can point fingers at that have contributed to the rise of industrial agriculture, CAFOs in this state since the middle 90s. And we can track it back to certain legislation that took away local control from our counties. And what's really made Iowa so much worse than the other states, because we're not even number one in soybeans, and we're barely above some of the other Corn Belt states in corn production, just barely above. So we are number one in glyphosate, but not that much more than some of the other Corn Belt states. It's the amount of manure that we have. We have 2.5 times more hogs than any other state. We're number one in eggs, and we're top 5 in every form of livestock. It's the amount of crap and the over application of the manure. And we've been fighting. We've had bills up at the State House for almost 10 years for a moratorium on animal confinements, and we have never even gotten out of a subcommittee in 10 years. And and we can't even get the water testing bill. I mean, that's the very least we can do, because if we don't measure what you don't measure, you can't manage. And what you can't manage, what you can't
Do you have
manage,
a
you can
question?
hide. Yeah. So what can we do? Yes, I do have a question.
Okay.
What can we do to get the rest of the Democrats on board, and maybe even some of the Republicans? This polling says that Republicans are supposed to be with us on that. At least the constituents are. So who are the constituents? Is their constituents big ag, or is their constituents the people?
I mean, to your comment on feeding out of the same money trough, I would say that is no longer the case. It's public record of where campaign contributions come from. Farm Bureau does not contribute, and the like contribute very little to Democrats at this point. It hasn't always been that way. So I don't feel like there's, at this point in time now, and I've only been in politics now for 3.5 years, but it's always right to question the influence of big money in all things political. I think it's really important for all of you to talk to your Democrats at every level and tell them that you want them to speak up about this. And you know what I think is going to be really instructive is what happens in our Secretary of Agriculture race. Here we have Chris Jones, who has, doesn't mince words, and his entire campaign is on water quality. And I would not be shocked if this guy wins. And if this guy wins, you're going to see both Democratic and Republican politicians speak very differently about water quality if Chris Jones can win in the state of Iowa, and I think he can.
Okay, I'm gonna one more. People are leaving, so those of you who need to leave, that's fine. We have one hand up, and I hate to leave that hand, Tina, and so we're gonna have that answered, and be sure to save the chat. Jackie has mentioned that you go into the chat, and you click on those 3 dots, and it says save chat. And you can do that. And then we'll have a recording of this on our YouTube, and we can all get in touch with our legislators and things. So one more.
And I will,
yes.
If I may too, people need to leave. I'll give you all my phone number too. If you want to call, text me, happy to answer you too. And maybe you can send along with in the email. But if anybody wants my number, why don't I can put it in the chat, right? I know.
Put it in the chat. Okay.
I just got to figure out how.
That's incredible. That's really opening yourself up, Austin.
Here we go.
And Tina, let's finish with your.
Okay. a couple of things. If I understand correctly, I live in the country out towards Crescent. It's Council Bluffs, but out towards Crescent. We are on well water. I don't think it makes any difference on how deep it is. It's 360 feet. I think you summarized, I need to get a hold of, every county has this money, the sanitarian is Pottawatomie County, so every county has that money to test my water?
Yes, ma'am. Tina,
Okay.
every county has a county sanitarian.
County sanitarian. Okay.
County sanitarian, they're oftentimes associated with the county public health department.
Public health. Okay.
But not always. But every county receives funds from the state of Iowa to get your well tested.
All right.
Now, I will say that they test they do the basic tests. That's nitrate, coliforms, which is E. coli. It's far more expensive to get testing for like PFAS and some of the some of the herbicides like atrazine and things like that. So see what they're able to do. And sometimes they'll give you resources of what it takes to do that additional testing, but they can at least test the basics for free.
Okay. Then the reverse osmosis, no matter what, I should see about get that for my drinking water.
You could see what your well water looks like. If you have a deep enough well, you may be just fine.
The only thing I was diagnosed with kidney cancer 5 years ago. I was surprised to see that it's 9th on the list. So are you saying or not that the water I've been drinking, we've lived here 40 years, that could be a contributing factor to the kidney cancer, or it's too hard to tell?
I think it would depend on what your well water looks like.
Okay.
If your well water is low in nitrate, then I don't think that we would necessarily say that's highly likely. There are a couple studies that link kidney cancer as higher risk for folks who have high nitrate intake. The honest truth is we never know for sure.
No, sure.
Never know for sure.
Okay. And so the third thing then is to speak to the representative from my district to see how he or she is, what's their take on it. Shame on me, I'm not even sure who that is. I think I know, but so get a hold of that individual.
Pottawatomie, probably Brent Segrist or Josh Turek.
No,
in the House.
Josh. Yeah, and he's running hooray for the
Right.
city.
Yeah,
And he is such a dear man.
Josh is a good friend of mine. I know where he stands on water quality.
Oh, yeah, and we've got to elect him to the federal. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. And Tina, we're gonna wrap this up. Thanks everyone for being here. It's just there's not enough. At this point, we have to do everything we can, and I think personally we've got to get some of you on this call can run for office. You can still be elected at your county convention to run for state legislature. We can get a Democrat governor, but he needs some help in the legislature. So we need to recruit, and we've got to get a change in our state government. And thank you, Austin. You've just been awesome, Austin. And we really appreciate what you've done. And good night, everyone. And thank you for everything.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks so much for having me.
You bet.
Thank you.
You bet.
Thanks, Austin.
Awesome.
Thanks, Denise. Thanks, everyone.